Hello everyone, welcome. In today's video, we will see the advanced JMeter concept of creating JSON data payload using a Groovy. Before actually going into the creating a data and why we should use in Groovy, let's try to understand some business cases. So, suppose you have to do the load testing of an user registration where you are expecting that you're gonna onboard 10,000 users in an hour. So obviously to do that you would need a 10,000 credentials like an email and password. And for testing purposes, even if you wanted to use a dummy or imaginary email ID, you would need to have 10,000 super record present, right? So in that case, instead of maintaining 10,000 email addresses and password in some file, you can use this particular approach. It's very lightweight and easily scalable on any kind of a distribution. So if you want to go from a 10,000 to million, you should be able to do that without much of a hassle. The second use case is about an e-commerce site. Suppose you wanted to check how particular product works if you have like thousands of reviews and you wanted to see performance of an reviews service. If you want to add like 1,000 reviews on a particular product within 10 minutes or 15 minutes, how would that particular service will perform and how will that product will get loaded. So those kind of scenarios, or even if you wanted to add multiple reviews or multiple products, so in those scenarios having to maintain files won't be that easy. You can just use this Groovy to create the dynamic JSON payload, and that should suffice your need. Now that we talked about like two simple business use cases where we can use creating a dynamic JSON payload using a Groovy, let's try to understand what we will learn after by end of this video. So you will learn the limitation of a CSV for parameterization. Don't get me wrong, CSV work great and it would suffice your 80% of a need, but 20% of a need it's kind of a hassle. So let me go through the limitation of a CSV file. So as we go increasing the number of users or number of scenarios or number of data items, the size of CSV file will increase. Think about if you wanted to go with 10,000 per record, it would be like a huge file, and if it has like 100 columns, so file will be huge. Again, if you want to change something in this 10,000 per record, you have to use some notepad plus plus or excel or some kind of a software to make those changes, because opening it in simple text editor, it's not gonna easy to maintain or make those changes into 10,000 per record. And suppose you have to create a nested JSON or aggregated JSON payload for your request, then mapping this variable from CSV file to the actual JSON payload, it's not easy and it's gonna be time consuming, and most importantly it's gonna be error prone. So that's why one should not try to use CSV in such cases, and they should always think about using creating a dynamic payload on the fly. Right, you will also understand very simple concept how one can use thread group to do the load testing, then understand what is basic the preprocessor. You will also use the debug sampler while developing the script. You will also get introduced to the JSR223 preprocessor, which supports the Groovy out of the box, and then you will use this preprocessor to create the objects and the JSON payload, and basically how to pass the JSON payload to make the particular call. So this will be the hands-on session. We will most focus on using debug sampler and use JSON server to make this call. JSON server is something that I have covered in last video. So if you're not aware of it, go through it, right? So let me show you what we have in a JSON server. So I am opening a particular, let me open this in terminal. I hope this is visible to you, and I am opening this in code. So I hope this is visible now. So I just have like one post, one comment and one profile in my db.json file, and I'm just gonna run a JSON server file to watch this TV. So you can see that this is now visible on. Okay, I increased the overall font so it should be visible to everyone now. Okay, yeah, so localhost is running on port 3000, so I'll open this localhost on 3000, and you can see that all this post, comment and profile, the object that we have seen in our code file, you should be able to see it over here. One post, one comment and one type code. The funny thing is, if we change something here like uh, advanced JMeter dynamic JSON payload. Suppose we create something, and if I save it, you can see that it got reloaded again. And if I go to my app and if I refresh this post page, you will see that whatever title we have changed, it got updated in this particular endpoint as well. Vice versa, if we something get changes into this, it will get reflected into this. If we make changes using this particular endpoint, it will basically reflect in this database.json file. So instead of having real-time APIs, we are just faking APIs for our purpose. So that's about a JSON server and how to have a JSON server install, getting started with a JSON server. I covered it in my last video, so you should definitely check that out as well if you wanted to get acquaintance with a JSON server. So let's open a JMeter. So let me create a new script, add a thread group. Okay, so basically thread group is nothing but anything that we wanted to do, like an user or our journey plan or our load modeling. So that is what comes under the thread group. You can give any name, like whatever you think is appropriate for your plan. I am just giving my channel name here for a reference, so testing and tooling, and yeah, that should be it. I'm saving it. First we will try to say try to get a particular call into JMeter, what we have seen on the UI. So posts, right? So I'll try to make this call, and obviously we wanted to see the result. How does it look like? So I'll add a view result tree and viewer, and I am making first call. Okay, it is passed request and response. Okay, this may not be visible to you folks, so let me increase the font of log zoom in. Okay, so basically now I think it should be visible. I am just making a get call to post and try to see what kind of data that we are getting, and I am making a request again. So this is what we have here, and I don't know whether it's visible to you folks or not, so let me zoom it in some way. So you can see the response that something that we have seen in the browser here, the same thing is being displayed here as well, right? So that is how the get request look like, and it's very simple. This also shows that whatever we have done as part of uh, our JSON server utility is working fine as expected, right? So let's move to the next part. So we talked about that we gonna cover lot many things: thread group, preprocessor, debug sampler. So first of all, I'll show you, if I can just make a post call and add in data, and how can we do that, right? So we are making a post call, and if you see the body, it has title and author. ID will be automatically generated by the JSON server, so we don't have to take care of it. So I'll just add another title. Title as a learn playwright, and author is and I am saving this, and it most likely failed because we have not added any kind of an it worked. Okay, it worked, but it's showing no ID. So if I refresh this, you can see the ID is getting created, but data that we are passed as part of a post request, it is not working. It is not working because it is not in JSON. So let me add it as in JSON. I doubt it will still work, so we will fix it anyway, whatever issue that we get. Okay, so same issue. And before we fix the issue, I wanted to show you the JSON file as well. So you can see that this is automatically changed, and these two records got added. So I'll resave this. I'll go to the browser, refresh the page, and I should only able to see the first page, right? Okay, so we have not added content type. Basically, we were making a JSON request, but we have not specified anywhere in our request that what kind of request header would be there. So this request header doesn't specify content type, and it still shows content type text and plain, which is not true. And we expect our JSON server expect request type of an application JSON. So let me add that config element, and I'll add an HTTP header manager where we can specify the our headers. So and application JSON, right? So we want type as an application JSON. Okay, it's not very visible. Let me zoom out a bit and I can show you in a better way. So yeah, so I have saved this, and yep, if it is not visible, just added an content type application JSON, so that whatever data that required is getting displayed over there. So now I'll run the data, and you will see that in request body we are saving, passing and title, and response we are getting full response. And you can see that this request is shown title and author as well. So if we go to the browser, refresh it, you can see the particular title is added. And okay, cool, right? So now this is covered. If you see this in the rdb.json, you can see that particular post call has been made. It took this much of a time, and this particular has been added to this, right? So suppose if you want to add a 10 entries and you wanted to some dynamic data, you don't have to pass this or create this data, pass it through the particular CSV file. You can think about how can you create an object or model an object, right? So we will do that, but prior to that we talked about how can we uh, use a debug sampler and preprocessor, right? So debug sampler is something that you wanted to print, or before you wanted to make a request, you wanted to see what kind of data that you are sending. You can use the debug sampler for that particular reason, right? So let me post create post. So we had creating a post recently header manager, so that is what we are doing. And I'll just add a debug sampler here so that you can see. Debug sampler basically shows all the properties and uh, uh, all the variables that you have created. So if I make a run, you can see that the default variable in the JMeter are being displayed over here as part of a debug sampler, and that's it, right, in the response body, and nothing in the response header. And if we define something, it will get displayed over here. Okay, now we talked about debug sampler. We will get introduced to the what is the preprocessor. Suppose you want to make any request, but before making that request you want to do some pre-processing on the data that you have. That is where preprocessor comes into the picture, and there are different type of preprocessor available in JMeter, right? So if you go in sampler, no, not in sampler, but in preprocessor, you will see that multiple type of preprocessor, like uh, user parameters, then regex user parameters, JD preprocessor, and JSR preprocessor. So these are like most used preprocessor. There are some extension as well that comes within JMeter that you can use to add other preprocessors, but we will not get into that right now. So we will just talk about JSR to the preprocessor. So this preprocessor, so I have added it to the scope. So this is now added as a part of a child of a debug sampler. What does that mean? So if I create something, that will go, that is only applicable to this particular sampler, right? So earlier we talked about, while we were talking about business use cases, we talked about how can we create so many different users, email and password, right? So let's take that as an example and try to create something. I'll just zoom it out so that the code is available. So before actually we have to before we actually use a JSON in a Groovy, we have to import the JSON builder. How JSON builder works, if you are not sure, there is a video on the channel for same as well. So I have just imported the JSON builder. Okay, now let's say we want a user as in something uh, which has an username, password, and email address, something and kind of an object that we need to create. So let's define it here in Groovy, and very simple that okay, we need an username. Let's say username is Amol. Let's keep it simple. Amol. Then let's say the password email. Okay, then you can email me at toamol@gmail.com, and suppose there is a password. This is what you need, as to create a user. So I'm just creating a dummy thing. Let's say password 123, right? And obviously this is an object that we have creating, an array object. Let's convert into the JSON, because mostly with REST APIs we're gonna use in JSON. So let's use and define the JSON, and something that we have imported earlier here. So we will create an object of it using new JSON builder, and so object that we have created, and let's print it to, let's change the format to the pretty string. You can just have it as a string as well, but pretty string will give you in a readable format. And let's put this into some variable as an user, or user registration and we have JSON. So mind that the JMeter only support creating a variable in string format. So whatever variable that you create, even it is in JSON, you have to convert into the string. So within JSON builder, there comes two functions that you can use, two methods, two function, to string or to pretty string. I am going with the pretty string, so we can print it. Now that I don't think if code is visible, but let me show the code you again. I am importing this dependency. I am defining what kind of an object that we will need, and once we know the object, using the imported dependency, pass the object as a parameter, and as I mentioned, the JMeter accept the variables only in format of a string, so converting it into the string using a printing string method. There is another method, but for time being we will just focus on this. Now we are putting this in here, and let us run it one more time. I'll just disable this for now so that we don't create a lot of metadata, similar data, and I'll run it, and you should be only able to see this debug sampler, right? And if you see the response data, response body, and you should be able to see in debug sampler this user registration payload that we created, right? So you say that okay, whatever you wrote in a preprocessor, you can see it here, but how can we pass that as a parameter? That's very easy, uh, and I should be able to show you that. If you go to this request, there is nothing is showing in the request, right? So if you want in debug sampler, okay, no, you need a dummy sampler for that, but let me show you using a dummy sampler. If I have a dummy sampler, debug sampler JSR, okay, I have not added the dummy sampler, but you can fake the sampler as well. There is a plugin as a dummy sampler that you can choose. Maybe we can make a separate video for a dummy sampler. Okay, so you saw what we have, we were able to create, but you said that this is all hard coded. There is no point writing this down. Instead of that, it wouldn't it been easier to just parameterize? But let me show, if we can just use something like very simple that is already there within JMeter and using our code, and that should just help us out, right? So let me show thread num. So this is one of the method that JMeter provides, thread and a function in JMeter. So if you go to the functions, you would be able to see that it actually provides, give you, okay, we are not at thread. Yeah, so you can see over here. So it's part of an official documentation. You should be able to see it over here, thread number, functions and variables. How can one we use a thread number and other things, right? So I'm just using this thread number in the JMeter here, so that I'll create amol1 underscore as a thread, and I'll just add something in my email ID as well, so that I'll get a different email ID. There is no need to change the password, but for time being, I'm just adding a password here as well, so that we can see. So if I run this now in debug sampler, you see thread 1. So what is thread 1? So I don't know if it's visible. So you can see this everything has underscore 1 underscore 1 underscore 1, and this is because in our preprocessor code I have added this underscore and whatever the thread number is, right? So this underscore and thread number, so that is helping us out creating this particular kind of an object. But this is still one. How can we go and create multiple kind of an object using Groovy, right? So let me show, instead of here one, why don't we use something as an variable, and let's say thread count. Okay, so thread count, and then this thread count could be a dynamic value that you pass to the JMeter at a runtime. So that I just went to the thread group, and I given is a thread count. So thread count is something that I'm gonna use, but obviously it has to be in variable. So we have to choose a JMeter variable kind of a syntax like this, right? So this is the syntax. and thread count, and we can pass this in command line parameter to the JMeter. But for now, what we will do, we will just create an config element, CSV data set config. No, not in CSV, we're not gonna use CSV, so no point in adding CSV. So let's say user defined config, user defined variable, right? So add and add, right? So okay, and just to understand, what is the value that we are giving, I'll just print it over here. So let me show the changes that I made. So the debug sampler, I added a thread count as an in the name, so that we should be able to identify the debug sampler belong to the which thread. And in the preprocessor, I am not making any changes, but I have created this thread count and given initial value as 5 for user defined variable, right? And let me put it over here. So this thread group now has 5 threads, so it will run within 5 thread. If I run this, okay, 1 2 3 4, okay, because okay, thread count, it took value, okay, my bad. So I given value as a thread, I am not using a function that I am using, right? So ideally I have to use this function to get this 1 2 3 4 5. But if you see the result of this, you can see, if I, okay, let me run it one more time and show the result, it will make much more sense. Okay, now if I show you the result, so you see third number sampler, and it's having the underscore 3 as an like a postfix because of kind of a code we need, right? So suppose if I choose 2 2 2 2, right? So using this preprocessor, you can create dynamic object and pass it in. Suppose you now have to create like a 10,000 users, you just need to change the usage defined processor, and it should be able to create that many, that kind of a huge data, right? So this is how you can use debug sampler and preprocessor in a JMeter, right? So you saw very dummy example where we are creating a data. So let's put this to some use where we actually saw we were creating a post where we like uh, we created a post in JSON data right here. Okay, and you could see that same data because we made the same call twice, and it just have a different ID but same data. So let's try to use this and create something like a nice thing. And okay, so we have to make this as a dynamic thing, right? So I'll just increase the font while I type it out so that you folks don't miss out on anything, and I'll again walk you through the uh, I'll again walk you through so that you don't miss out on anything from the code. So I'll walk you through again. Okay, so let's say I have to import the importing Groovy wala dependency, Groovy dot JSON builder, right? So okay, and let's say we need this particular thing, right? So I am defining post, and post has this title, and just taking this out because we will use the converter. So title and post, this would definitely work, but we want something as a dynamic, right? So we won't be using it here using directly in body. We have to use an preprocessor, which I actually missed. So let me add it here as a preprocessor. I was trying to pass a parameter, and then I realized parameter option is not there, and then I realized, oh, I am not actually creating it. I am just writing it in instead of preprocessor, I am just writing in a data, body data of a request. So we are here and we want to pass in some parameter as a random string, right? So there isn't some function in JMeter for that as well, which is random string. So we will use that random string. Okay, and you have to mention how big string you need, and then you need to mention कि कौन से ये आपको चाहिए characters that you need in your string, right? So A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q. So I am gonna just restrict it to this. So it will create a string, and it will give me string from this particular characters for applying the 10, right? But these strings I need to consume in my code, in my Groovy code, right? I just wrote a thing. So for to do that, I'll just use def and input and accept the argument of this particular parameter that we are passing. If there are multiple parameters that you want to pass, you can just separate as an comma, and you can see that parameter type string as always, and you can accept as a string का जो है array. अभी ये first है तो I am accepting as a 0. If it is second, I'll accept as a 1 argument, right? Which is already given over here. So if it is not visible, I can show you, right? So parameter type string, and then कैसे consume करना है, how can we consume it over here, and then you can see this is the function that we are using. I'm not sure have I make a typo, but we will figure it out, and then the code remains same, right? So instead of this, what we will see, learn playwright, learn JMeter, and we will just add this input to this string, right? So we should be able to do that, right? So there could be multiple ways we can do that. We can create a parameter, we can create a class. So let's try to keep it simple. Let me see if this gonna work. If not, we will try to figure it out and way to do that. So author I'm gonna keep the same. I'm just gonna change the title, and obviously we have to uh, convert this into the JSON, and JSON to the payload. Again, new JSON builder. Why don't I copy this and use it, and I'll give this as a post, and to pretty string. Okay, to pretty string or to string, anything should work fine, but we need this as a variable. What should be the variable name? Let's say post करके करे post, and then in JSON, right? Before running this, I'll just change this thread count to the 1, so that we will just see like सब ठीक से चल रहा है क्या. And okay, we are making call here, but why don't I add it under this JSON sampler, and I keep this disabled. So this new wala we will test कि क्या हो रहा है, and then if it is looks fine, then we will put it in our code. Okay, create post तो फटेगा ही because we have not added the data. Okay, response data, response body. Let me check. Okay, create sampler. Let me disable this. Let me clean this up and let me run debug sampler. Okay, यहाँ पे कुछ error आ रहा है. Yes, there is some, looks like there is an error. Yes, what is the error? Problem in JSR script, no such property arg for a class. Okay, what did I miss? Arg for class. So let me check. Okay, arg, it should be args, and I wrote an arg, so that's why it's not working as expected. It's good that you So okay, there is no error now. I should be able to see it. Okay, so post, you could see that, in post there is this data is getting appended, right? We are getting the required JSON. So let's use this JSON as part of this is preprocessor. That means whatever we are putting here is working fine, and I'll just use post in my body. And let me see if it is working. Create post. Yeah, it is working. You can see now that this something got created. And let me change this, and let me show if we create using like 10. You can see this is not needed for our need, but you should see that so much data is got created. And same here, right? If I delete everything, all the posts, and if I run this, there is post API don't have any data. But if I run this now, it should have 10 results, because essentially we are running it 10 times, right? Create post का जो है. And you can see the JSON file is already updated, and if I go to the API, it will work out of the box. Okay, so that's it for video. We have not seen any embedded or aggregated JSON in this video, but if people shows interest, we may cover that as well. Thank you.